Hello, everybody who's filing into the cubes for our latest sojourn. Have you had that experience where you know somebody only through Zoom and then you meet them and you realize they have a profile and they're three-dimensional and it's weird, but sort of reaffirming somehow? Hi. Welcome, everybody, to the 7,800th Wednesday afternoon poetry reading put on by the Brooklyn Rail. Today's reading has been curated by Leanne Brown, who will be reading with Sophia Dahlin, Brett Evans, Sonnet L'Abbé, and Harryette Mullen. My name's Anselm. I'm the poetry editor at the Rail and the host of these things. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Harryette. Actually, Leanne, did you want to say something by way of introduction, or should we save that for the end?
I think we can save it for the end, but yeah, I think we should just launch into poetry as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, all that then that I will say is please keep an eye on the chat as the reading progresses, and there will be links to various works and related matters that our distinguished guests have put out into the world. Our first reader is Harryette Mullen. She was born in Florence, Alabama. She's the author of 7 collections of poetry, including Sleeping with the Dictionary, which was published in 2002 and nominated for a National Book Award. She's teaches in the English department at UCLA and has received fellowships from the American Academy of Poets and the Susan B. Anthony Institute for Women's Studies. Her long poem, Muse and Drudge, I got to hear her read from it live in San Francisco in 1995, and it blew my mind in the best way possible, and I never recovered. Please welcome Harryette Mullen.
Thank you, Anselm, and thank you, Leanne, for bringing us all together. I thought I would read some recent poems. These have been published lately, at least within the last several months or year or so, in DMQ Review, Interim, Poem a Day, Stand, Threefold, Tribes, and UCLA Today. So this one is called Natural History. A skilled glass blower exhales a molten bubble. Burning liquid cools into a perfectly transparent globe. Within the crystal sphere, a primal landscape of abundant life. In this elemental scene, a captive herd of triceratops graze, contented, unaware of confinement. They have never known the humiliation of an embezzler, handcuffed, doing the perp walk in an orange jumpsuit, or the psychosis of a condemned murderer staring at nothing, locked in a windowless cell on death row. Formidable creatures, inside their glass ball, they feel as free as songbirds that don't yet exist. Supersized reptiles stomp and chomp primordial vegetation, mossy trees waving ferny fronds. Gulping down their meal, the hunky, horny animals start farting and belching, releasing greenhouse gas that fuels the teeming forest. Enclosed in their fragile dome, a bunch of big bone lizards that never glanced at a hominid, never voted in an election, never built a machine, composed a melody, or solved an equation. Neither have they pondered the meaning of life, nor funded their retirement. Somehow, they don't seem anxious or depressed. As a flurry of snowflakes swirls in their tropical zone, not one of them dreams of green leaves turning to oil or coal to diamonds. This is Goner. In this interminable absence, annihilation is Blum certainty. The desert speaks lucidly, parsing exhausted iotas of dust. Ecstatic snakes inhabit radiant desolation, no less scathing than malignant sun staring down at a ruinous landscape. Whatever lives here evolves toward extinction, clad in brutal veneers of scant survival. This is Irreversible You. Your girlfriend's a canary. My songbird's not the best cook. Your girlfriend is a tenor. My songbird drives a truck. Your girlfriend, she's a feathered flying chirper. Sadly, my songbird is tone deaf. That girlfriend of yours is a nester. My songbird and I flop together. This is How Can We Know the Dancer from the Dance? Ever since we watched you take the cakewalk, ever since the Great White Way yanked Charleston's kick and swing, ever since Bojangles taught little Colonel Curlytop to tappity-tap up and down big house stairs, ever since the camera captured flawless Fayard flying high over Harold's head, ever since Jackie did the peppermint twist at a White House ball, ever since Madonna posed for Vogue and a fallen archangel tiptoed on the moon, ever since we first and last stepped off the Jim Crow train. Now, when we stop dancing, the world doesn't know how to move. This is White Collar. Eventually, your immature fun cashes out the public trust. The signature moves of your dominant hand now resigned to the stress of repetitive motion. Toothless mongrels slobber on your cleanest dirty shirt. Alas, slim pickings for the avid pack, panting to lick the butcher's bones. At sunrise, following a sleepless night, eternity remains hard and multidimensional. Regard the broken exit sign, a safety violation. Hello to a hellscape of plaintiffs nursing personal injuries based on your fraudulent appraisal. There's no adding an escape clause when the window's already closed. Then life speeds up with you, extreme long shot, running in faster frames. Even if you spot your nemesis in the crowd, you miss the sniper on the roof above. Metaphor bags for women. What's a Me Too for? What are you Me Too for? Turn your tote bag inside out. Shake up all the junk you got. Loose change, pencils, lipsticks, rings. Take you off to get a brand new bag to carry things. Snatch a one-size sack, all black, faux leather with a sturdy strap. Matches all your outfits, so anywhere it's good to go. What you use your Me Too for? Put a bag over your head. Yeah, that's what he said. In a nutshell, you aim at heaven as you unleash Earth. Launching into orbit, you count on cheating gravity. From where you sit, the planet looks compact and definite, also diminished and vulnerable. Lulled to sleep with weightless dreams, you float airlessly, divinely undisturbed, sealed inside your hermetic vessel. Stale breath recycled inspires unearthly experiments. Silence multiplies within your capsule, blotting out distractions. Ruler of infinite space, free to carve an epic in a nutshell. What wisdom will you share when you splash down? This is "Now's not the time for your tears." That's a quotation. A man with more money than God flies up to heaven in a luxury pod. 10 minutes later, he's grinning with pride, thanks to the workers who paid for his ride. A factory laborer dies on the job. Quickly, the bosses replace the poor slob. It isn't a problem of safety, they claim, but the worn out worker who is to blame. A long haul trucker with a big payload feels the rig seizing up and pulls off the road, tries waiting for help, but at last has to leave. Justice none such says you should stay there and freeze. All down the line, folks feeling unease. So many fall sick with this mystery disease. Supervisors ordering all meat packers, you gotta be workers, not slackers. Workers keep working with no protection, regardless of a raging infection. The managers start placing their bets on how many workers come down with it next. When nobody has any immunity, it's a business opportunity to profit with impunity. Ask the hospital workers who multitask, attending to patients with recycled masks. Now is not the time for your tears. Now's not the time for your tears. So I'm reading just two more, and they're all of the time, right? Conversation in isolation. Neighbors nail the planks, dividing their yard from mine, our durable fence. I walk half a block before realizing I've forgotten my mask. One ant following another, trusting we all are going somewhere. Stretched between two poles, clothesline outside my window, a robin's rest stop. Lemons fallen on the sidewalk to be rescued for my potpourri. No one and nothing touches me but this blue wind with cool caresses. And this is the last one. Thanks to fresh, clean sheets, line dried in sunshine. Gray cat with white stockings diverting a butterfly. Weeds in my lawn, dandelions I could eat if I were hungry. Grit and pebbles caught in the treads of my sneakers. Spare light bulb when the room goes dark. A pen that works, ink spent to make thoughts visible. Faces of gentle strangers I may never meet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harryette. Next, we're going to have Sonnet L'Abbé read. Sonnet is the author of 3 books of poetry, most recently Sonnets Shakespeare, which was a Quill and Choir Book of the Year. Katie Didden wrote, L'Abbé's poems call me to do no less than overhaul my fundamental ideas about poetry, poem making, the role of the poet in society, and even what it means to read. They teach creative writing at Vancouver Island University and write verse for song and page on the Snuneymuxw traditional territory. Please welcome Sonnet L'Abbé.
Thanks, Anselm. Yes, I am coming to you from Snuneymuxw territory today. So I'm going to read, I will read from Sonnets Shakespeare. Just quickly, without getting very deep into it, the procedure for these poems, they are erasures, but they're erasures by overwhelm. In each of these 154 poems, the original text of the Shakespeare sonnet is incorporated, buried, woven through. I put my letters all throughout his Shakespeare's text. So the first poem I'm going to read is sonnet is 120 from my book. It incorporates sonnet 120 from Shakespeare, and the first lines of the Shakespeare are, that you were once unkind befriends me now, And for that sorrow which I then did feel, needs must I under my transgression bow, unless my nerves were brass or hammered steel. And all of that language, that text is in this poem. 120. Therapists, you've been white almost every time. Once, a Desi counselor broke down in our first and only discussion, blurting her friend's racism. A question of power, the most understanding female authority I had. The sorrow for which I sought relief, they called miscegenation. I wondered what I did wrong, what I should feel, what needs must I be gagging under my social transgressions. I still battle isolation, working to undo lessons my nerves learned from white supremacy, from behavioral paradigms counselors had hammered into their master's degrees. I've hauled my soft, forced orifices into office after office. Wide-eyed counselors were, by my stories of racial unkindness, always shaken, as I was by your easy application of universal palliatives to a psyche trapped in polite hellscapes of multicultural mythologies and media tyrannies that your therapies could not validate. I've been a pill, not able to chill. My pleasure sought itself in talking endlessly to weigh how often, how innocently I suffered in your country. Immigrant, your textbooks said, my mother's story appearing in none of them. Troubled first-generation immigrant, you'd help adjust. To what? Reports of Black women's desirability metrics on dating apps? To liberal white folks' chokehold on professional virtue? To you? Intimacies only ever remembered my deepest sense of shame, how hard it is for you to sit with the true sorrow of shit sandwich stories. Now movements have opened you to Black lives. Maybe you'll refer to me like I referred to head. But I still can't bend my head around mental health that doesn't humble its assimilative assumptions. When I saw dream catchers on this pale woman's wall, I almost turned around. I've learned not to unbosom myself to exoticizing spiritualists. But her eagle feather is carried as transformatively. Euroculture's trespass now becomes a reference point. We say colonialism. We say intergenerational. Sitting in her room, we look at the gaslight, listen to my body. She urges me to breathe and feel my joy. It's not some country's request to mute raw truths. There's a peace at my core I can someday share, she says. She looks right in my eyes. I believe her. This one is 126. The original Shakespeare starts out, O thou, my lovely boy, who in thy power dost hold time's fickle glass in his sickle hour, who hast by waning grown, and therein show'st thy lover's withering, as thy sweet self growest. 126. Go into the forest, sit under the Amazon canopy. Rain falls. Above, the leafy cibos's layered crowns echo. Rain hits the flying moss, thumps on the woody understory. Do trees have their own songs? Like birders, intimate with species identifiable chickerlee, dendrologists can suss the tree's IDs from sonic data, says Haskell. Different shapes of leaf produce different whispers or thwacks. Different branchy frameworks sway trees' resonatings. Go out, pour attention willingly into ears, and learn to harvest sound. Repeat your attention, show the forest the sensibility you show lovers. With time, soon each tree rings to patient listeners its pithy, sweet song. Relationally, forests grow. Such a thing as individual is foreign to this nature. Sovereignty is only meaningful to the system entire. What then is sovereign in our interworked fract? Gagliano has faced the scorn of colleagues for listening to Zea mays, to the corn plant's growing baby roots. Those loud clicks, acoustic emissions, are incidental, say stalwarts. They're just a mechanical result of plant bubbles cracking in their tissue. But Gagliano suspects the sound spikes are like talk. She keeps heeding the call of green things, avowing that they purr with sensible purpose, trusting that her ecologist's skill may in time divulge the obscenities and graces of plant discourse. Water etches sound into biome. It is only fauna, is it only fauna that hears? Listening kind, possible yet feared, without ears, the outside hears our earth. A balsam fir zings and tinks as chickadees raise cones of their purple scales. Its verdure converses with vapor. An olive's branch extends over human military detonations, breathing dust and curling into itself. The scientist will keep, while hearing trash talk, measuring the unheard of auditory knack of green peas. Through desiccated soil, they foray toward water held in pipes, answering the sound of moving water without ever tasting its moisture. Vibes, plants, sounding the nervous quiet of us, phytosentient. Oh, render xylem phonetics, their flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonnet. Now we're going to hear from Brett Evans. Brett Evans lives in New Orleans, once near the bayou, now lake adjacent. He hearts faux fairies and half-feral beagles. He is the founder of the T-Rex Parade, an author with Chris Shipman of Keats is Not the Problem. He was also formerly the vocalist for the legendary band Skin Verb. Please welcome Brett Evans.
Thank you. Skin Verb still exists, believe it or not. It's a 25-year band that only plays twice a year. Yeah, greetings from lovely New Orleans after a night of tornadoes. This is Pop Psalm for Brooklyn's own Tracy McTagg. The worry was that he'd be suicidal even after death. Short shorts and so much longing, hence his Liger's lament. Pick your steps over these endless ruins, axes deep in the woods, hacking at the panels of the candy cabin. Hence the Apple Valley push-up appraised, hence the pill tickler and Poe quill set. Lord, let us never be billeted again in poor style, but still keep us simple as a ball-peen pen. Money is the poetry we're not writing. So let us our elastic, bestill the non-red jukebox and starfall. We did manage to send in the roaring rare angel locust and do away with the bicycle specialty stores, the general high-end looking down. Smote the maker of the enclaves for the open gate of all woe man. Filigreed the shadow with sunlight, but kept it a dazzling shadow. And I've been sending some recent postcards to my friend Joel, who's on the lam somewhere in Florida. who's going to be delighted to hear about Get the Money. And he published some of these postcards in a little thing called Global Okra. Now more than ever, I love the Global Okra, adult dollhouse, same section of the penal code. Rolling Stones and Kissing Potion, Altamont and Shasta Cola, Animal Relapse Animating Principle, Pruning a Rosebush by Full Moon. Can anything be baited but breath? Red Satellite brings out full-bodied possum. Dogs see Jesus coming. I mean, smell, the smell. Therefore, I feel well. I heart natural New Orleans problems. Crepe myrtle versus ticker tapes. Broadband versus bunny bread. A streetcar named Desire, a bus called Masked Required, and a grass cutter named Gravely go into a bar. Where else? Camellia disease versus live oak ailment. Riding chums versus lugging drums. Bindle versus the pill less traveled. Ain't a thing tropical elation versus buoy bob Gulf Coast joy. Kazoo what you wanna versus party pics with the majorettes of Aztec civilization. So there's a novel called The Floating Opera by John Bart. That's the thing is like there's a steamboat that goes down the river and the people on the shore just get snatches of whatever bit of opera it's playing as it passes. So these next few poems, all of them are take their titles from exactly the chapter titles of A Floating Opera, which then became a series called Flopera. A chorus of oysters. All night barataria had me at a water on all sides rager. Sweat from the bottle bracelets my wrist, pops the top up to brine throb under the hood. Funny mollusks, in love at heart, glurping down the good stuff. As bivalves go, so goes the amphitheater and all its creatures, in gilt-stitch robes, in shrimp boots and stockings, in stripes and roughed up tights. Being sexy just before the cataclysm. Shift change of gods behind the bandstand. The world doesn't need another pollution song. The smog monster done came and did his battle and will be back with more. Who needs it? Just wanted to come up dreaming, stay alive, high land, hard rain, through the muscle shadows, down to deepest octopi bottom. Sing better than having to hide. The inquiry. The old tree on the empty lot doesn't know it's done for. As the sea levels rise and the pilings go into the ground. Hottest neighborhood in drowning city, yee-haw. Surely the tree deserves to outlive all of us humankind, who have changed the very DNA of the core of the earth itself. It's a home run ball for wrong. There's always the big why we can parlor game, wishing it was as easy as declaring if Prince or Michael was better. This was a pretty empty lot of pine tree and cypress. Leave my empty lot alone. Clearly the answer is Prince. The end of the outline. Sunny, brutalist, foxy hatchet job, antediluvial manwich, impugnable timing. Lower the Ray-Bans, flash cheeks to the wind. American Dairy versus Sriracha mustache. Cutie self-heckler versus American darling valve. I like devolved, do you? I heart extra helping, shutter roast. We step to the stage, letting fears ride behind us and cover John Stewart's gold as a duet. Our transcendent, size surface sizzle, so rainbow punching alive. Calliope music. Gumbo and fried chicken connoisseurs, not in that order, not to mention the wild chihuahuas tag standard poodle, freshly fallen leaves on the astroturf lanai, and other signs of the austral autumn. We played 20 rough ball and gloro bocce, and then went in for tonk and other cards. Party barge ska and paddle wheeler funk. We could hear all the way from here. Our love is yay big. We sing songs, don't try to stop it. Our jokes get funnier the closer we sit together. We let the ghosts pick the 45s. We let the wind through the ginger be the only perfume. The floating opera. For your lover's alibi, how about baby nutria sighting at Big Lake? How about you got your black box in my mile high club sandwich? I'm gonna need that crust, you'll see why later. How about one biped's baptism is another one's skinny dip? How about patterns of the world minus food chain equals splendor? It's sunny and cold and pretty and very much time to be outside because it's far from your mirror. It's nice light for a fang fight. And then there's this pair of flapper feather white ducks among the others people flock to with cameras and bags of bunny bread. This is your avian paparazzi distraction. Ain't this a kick in the head? Amen. And despite all it, everything I try to do, the only poem people really want is this final one about a roach. Just put a roach in a poem. Apparently that's the hit. So it's called Roach Giant. It's from Keats is Not the Problem, which is a quote from the poet Roger Kamenetz when he was talking about having to move houses. And he was talking about having to downsize his book collection. And I was like, well, what about Keats? Don't you sometimes want to just pull that off the shelf and read that again? And then he said, Brett, Keats is not the problem. Okay, Roach Giant. And after I just see the "are you kidding me" size cockroach somehow not fleeing the scything foot, then I see why. He's a roach with a fuzzball sidecar. Got a fuzzball sidecar tag-along anchor weight in nano ounces, yet enough to lame him as he wedges to the corner behind clawfoot tub, and I'm suddenly sympathetic. I too have started mornings with kites made of lead, flying off foot, pushing a big lint racket up the mountain, blowing my own levee, ruining for the hills. I go into the next room and write these very lines down. And I come back and he appears again as I return to the bathroom. And just as after I had written the previous sympathy list bit, he now flagrantly forces the kill. I return with paper towel, but when going in for said kill, he goes belly up and does the ill pickle leg wiggle thing. So half against my will, again, with the towel, I perform a fuzzball-ectomy. Just last week, I had lost a dog, a friend, and sent him on his way. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Brett. I think I'm going to be haunted by that antediluvial manwich for the rest of the afternoon. So now we're going to move from New Orleans to Berkeley, and Sophia Dahlin will read. Sophia is the author of the poetry book Natch, which came out in 2020 from City Lights. Her work has appeared in numerous places, including Bomb, Fence, Lambda Literary, Denver Quarterly, and The Recluse. With Jacob Kahn, she edits the chapbook press Eyelet, and she teaches with California poets in the schools, conducting generative writing workshops and hosting occasional readings. Please welcome Sophia Dahlin.
Thank you. Thank you, Anselm. Thank you, Leanne, for inviting me. Thank you, poets, for reading. and poets for attending. I'm so excited to be reading with this particular lineup, and to prove it, I'll read. Glove money. I need money to buy gloves so that I never need again to touch it. Money. I need gloves to separate my hands from dollars, also from other hands when they hand me money. Handling others' money, others' hands, disgusting and cold or hot and lotion. To regulate mine own hands' temperatures, gloves. To buy them, money. What would be the most ideal would be to have the gloves already. Somebody, I need you to hand me some gloves, to hand me some money there in the glove store, so I may hand that money in my glove to the cashier there, whose name is French for cashier, and she will handle me the coins I'll catch in my leather palm, or velvet palm, or artificial breathable fibers, like Lance Armstrong, an athlete of my time. I would like enough money for gloves, enough gloves for money, and 2 hid hands held by my secret skin. Once before I knew I was a kind of lesbian, when I just liked boys, when I was but a bored, I mean, when I despised my own thin, small-boned chest. I saw on her, we were in somebody's driveway in full sun, a classmate wore a hand, a little charm on a chain, palm down, penny-length ornament that rested past her clavicle, above her breasts. It is the part I now know I love to touch the best, just where the fat starts. I stood though, dumbstruck, not knowing yet that I am a hand and my sex is a hand. I thought, how erotic. How could it be so erotic? How secret that her necklace touches her. She wears the touch in public. These are poems from my imaginary new manuscript. I mean, it's a real manuscript, but you know, it's an imaginary book. Sapphic 1. How will I write sapphic poetry? For though I'm a woman loving women, my love is a man's solicitous desire. I scratch my throat. My voice goes husky as I say your name. I measure the yard with a foot-long hot dog, but I fuck up the numbers because the sausage softly bends and I get distracted, pressing it against the exterior molding. My love was invented to secure our infant housing. And every time we touch, I want to write a check. Not necessarily to you, but somebody. I'm so dumb. I'm so lucky. I'm certain I'm overlooking my uselessness. None of this is true. My love is a fruit. I am just like Sappho, bearing your loss to a wedding. And I am assured of my uselessness. Here is its catalog. The yard is trees, a long lap of trees across a woody forest, peeling down the sea. And I'm speaking to you in this group of our peers, yearning, and I know my yearning is sonorous. Because I am not trying to take you from anybody. If you want to go, all I can do is sing you hotly, so that you will look for me when your water breaks. So when birth pain takes you out, you'll see my face in blackness. When you hear your name elsewhere, my voice will sing it lightly under. You'll name your baby Sophiakos. The fruit of my invention seeds its sugar in your dreams. From this point onward, the poems get more didactic. Sapphic 2. If you fear you are not gay enough, Go out and do something about it, like suck a girl's dick or get fisted. Dump your boyfriend. Fear can be destructive and it will age you. It will age you like the sun. But you can enjoy your fear if you're careless with it, like you can enjoy the sun and let it graze upon your baby skin. If you fear not being queer enough, try to think of yourself as lyrical dirt anti-capitalist animals might furrow. Sunlight might lavish sex upon. Notice yourself mobile, a bouncing part of the natural world. If you fear not being read as queer, cut your hair, quit a job, develop your art, IDK, join a cell, locate a clit. I'm trying to show you how good this can be, how much joy, like how much liquid in these clouds. Men can be wonderful, but too many of them will ruin your life. They will ruin the garden of your love. They will stand around you like a fence. They will crowd out the queer beasts, the queer birds, and the queer creatures of the forests fucking. It's like 10:42 a.m. California. Way too early for my poetry. One more piece. Gratitude is counter-revolutionary. Yes, you should bite the hand. It should not hold the food suspended while you eat, your throat tight and your neck bent back in feeding. Why not place the food on your floor or periphery and back away and let you eat food as food? If it needs its palm licked, let it ask for that. Offer a palm, not lunch. This is very Diane de Prima, don't you think? Eat the hand that feeds you. Then, what would she say? Plant your own kibble. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. And our final reader is Leanne Brown, who has put this together today. Leanne is a poet, book publisher, and the founding editor of Tender Buttons Press. Some of her books include Other Archer, In the Laurels Caught, Crowns of Charlotte, The Sleep That Changed Everything, and Polyverse. In 1989, Brown founded Tender Buttons Press, which is dedicated to publishing experimental women's poetry. She has taught at tons and tons of places, too many to list. And it's a real pleasure to have Leanne Brown here. Please welcome her.
Thank y'all so much. I'm so high from hearing those readings. Thank you for reading in the past, present, future, all of y'all, and making the big ring around the continent. And thank you for all the people here, and especially from the people beaming in from overseas. I see you. I just wanted to start with a little invocation to spring and to the mountain where I got to spend most of the pandemic. There's a sassafras tree growing in the yard. So I'm going to play one note on my dulcimer, so I'll be the lady with the dulcimer. I haven't learned how to play it yet, but... Of sassafras, sassafras, that multifloral tree I sing, abundant in her offering, everywhere around the yard, like a gardener in the dark. A poet plants, starts, who later fill in their lovely green on their own. I give to you these many herbs, planted in a spiral round, the fast-growing motherwort with green fuzzy caterpillar, who with any luck will someday be a moth. Small and white, or large and sphinxy, as big as a bird. Pink, clover galore, daisies dying down. Hawkweed like gangly dandelions, all of these we can eat. Ella Company, aka Elf Duck, like a giant mullen, fuzzy, will shoot up yellow an August torch. But let's share the three-handed sassafras flowers like baby fisty popcorn, subverting the duality of all other leaves. And I planted a spiral garden at the top of my hill in North Carolina. I hope that y'all will come visit it someday in person or in your mind. Here's a little sonnet. I've been doing sonnets, obsessing on sonnets for a long, long time, ever since publishing Bernadette Mayer's sonnets in 1989. And of course, she published Anselm's dad's sonnets. And this is one I wrote called Countdown to Plants and Planets. Gerard's Herbal asks, why look up at the sky when all around your feet are these green beings ready to be seen? Atria are the receiving rooms of our heart's blood. So where are the hearts of plants and planets, a core to where each stem blood leads? This flow of would-be water or gaseous striped storm? Up there on the horizon, Ursa Major on the rim of Manhattan lumbers over the edge of night. The next planet intones, hello, it's a mystery we can't hear unless we hold our ear close to shells or plants who are awake or asleep at the same time, or never. And one of the muses of my book Sonnets that I've been working on for a long time that is Harriette's rewrite of Sonnet 130, which is, she did, my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun, as my dim lady. My honey bunches peepers are nothing like neon. So I'm gonna read mine that I did a long time ago. And it's CXXX, so it looks like sex. 130. My crush's eyes do beam blue and blind me like the sun. Corals are far harder than her hips, her thighs caught. Never gave Snow White a chance, you dwarves. Why are her breasts so done up? If hair be wired, hers is lit from within, appled, and I've never seen any roses as red as Rose Red, her beast. But no, I cannot even dream of her cheeks tonight, and in Deneuve's Chanel is more delight than in Catherine's cabinet where old perfumes do be. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that her written hand far surpasses even that orality. I allow I never saw this goddess go so low, so, mister, when she walls up, she treads in Brooklyn, where in my mind I still dwell on Hope Street, but rarely, rarely do I even go there. And then here's a little one for Brett. I don't think he's heard yet. Maybe I sent it to him. Brett Evans' Song Sonic. Short E assonance in your name begets an ether pet never forget. The Swamp Kid Can Factory from an aerial view. You wave to a helicopter. Pink tape over the zoom of the crew of Tit Rex on the guest bed screen porch spring train on the horizon of ache. Viewing platform of wreckage. New Worm Queen elected to best serve our tetchy hurricane lamp torn under the porch. A poem quivers in hiding and must be reunited with its leash of horns. Shiny, spinning disc of songs, nodding off after a gumbo-ish feast best served with hot sauce en papillette. Here's one for Kevin Killian, KK, 6/15/19. Morning breaks again on Chelsea. How could you be gone? Blockchain tumbling energy release as gigantic blocks hit Earth. Flashback, dream, you are recasting your play. Sounds of wood splitting, of something like pool balls clicking out the humidity window. Days of this. Rather die than not write a gathering, a play of our own lives. All the lost acrostics I wrote you and Dodie, of Minna and her sisters, streetwalkers, lady night, and I walked slowly around the block in a haze of a sort of sorrow joy. Pride rainbows droop and glisten for all tomorrow's tab hunter parties. You in the empty center, heat-shaped, we read your words, a broad glamour, connected with gossip ribbons, deep community, a soft sort of tag. Venus is upon us. He comes to me dressed as Jesus, asking, why do you always ask about the pain? Now is the time for love, now the pleasure of music. I'm ready for him, and then he comes in with playlists, down his robe draped with lavender and yellow, and all his feelings written out for once for me to see. Another lover of the word appears after I skate over the hill and gives to me a book with letters of pure gold, cursive, which reads, flickering in French eye or egg of gold, or else the gold on the blue flame of the flower. We stand in line for food at a Russian restaurant, closing soon. Obsequies begin outside in an iconic line. I have no money to pay for their fragrant beef stew, then suddenly hundreds of dollars. But still I don't eat, as the bills are stacked with a deposit slip. So give it all back and go to put on my women's clothes and look for the food my friend had given me before. Dream sonnet. Here's one for Urosh Pra. We would fail if not for the nights. To know a place, you have to sleep in it, but everywhere you go, there you are. The Dreamwell geyser comes up with so much stuff you have to walk around the block just to go on your nerve in a brand new city. Now a dead mystery to me. I have no more block, only a green mound. To water under meteors, under cloud. Hello, how are you? Looking in a shop window? Alive with dancing, drinking with a friend like you did with me that hot muggy night in NYC? Or was it cold? No matter, you're bold. Sonnet as maximalist haven, as boundary to be broken, as four-square game where the ball often heads out the frame, so run, go get it back. Sonnet as pressure in the back of my skull, too much found material in the world can be dull. Sonnet, my sonnet, stop. So reflux, so reflexible, so deal with it, all this finality with an erotics of walking sonnets. Fierce in music action, can't stop varying the song, or not yet the lines coming in at me will soon morph or flow to a looser song. But for now, it's here, where I belong, conjoined. Little swinging planet eater for Sophia Dahlin. In this circular Miranda gut array, schisms pour down like stinking pitch. Be collected as in a car, if only her bootless inquisitions can remember the tempest rather like a dream. Ah, you pleased, my father, enwrapped in secret studies and sucking my blank page. Pray thee, mark me, Speedo Shakespeare. Your talk would cure deafness, a confederate in my brother's suit. Ariel is my sister, and I flame in amazement. And to end up, I wanted to read just a short sequence of this Brooklyn Book of Riddles that I had lost and I found again. Thank you, Brett. I guess I'll read the riddle first and you can guess in the chat. It's going to be hard, but Brooklyn Book of Riddles. I am a spider hanging from a web, but have 6 legs instead of 8. I look like a shiny cockatrice, and you light me up if you're up late. A chandelier. I'm gonna go through these fast. Okay. I wiggle on your tongue, but I am not alive. I filter ocean water, pure as can be, but don't eat me if I come from NYC. Anybody? Oysters. I was a dirty little 1, 2, 3. Backwards, I am raw. I took your uncle and your dad and spit them back out dead. Right, war. Thank you. Sonnet. And Ant. Got it. I can make you cry on a dime or help you drive to work. I can change my tune in 3 minutes flat. You can sing with me. A song on the radio. Soft, I curl around a man like a sailor on leave. Navy blue and crew, I am French or new. A striped shirt. I fit in your hand, round and red ball, innocent until eaten. I got the bum's rush from Eden. Ooh, hi. That's an apple. I eat and eat, but my maw grows bigger. I eat your sleep. Where can you get the rest? Debt. The day the war started, my cat catches a baby mouse. I take birth control pill number 3. Kim says a cloud in the shape of a cross was spotted over Washington, D.C., and that Barbara Bush's broken leg is a sign. I go to the Russian baths. A woman washes me. Someone has written on her steamy mirror, visualize peace. I go upstairs to have borscht. The television says the war has officially begun. Numerous very large explosions. The first weapons are tomahawks, $1 million apiece. This according to Ed Peck and Gary Sick, as we speak, before our eyes. And I'm going to read one more because I just don't want to end on that. Psalm from my mother's womb. The light in their eye in the dark night is knit me strong to my delight. In February I'm below her heart, some dark seed myself to start. I am here, I am near, new soul or old, hidden deep to escape the cold of outer space. The seasons turn. Before Halloween I'll emerge to burn the leaves to gold and orange from green. I dance away down a forest lane. I walk to the rock when I am older, climb up with my sister over the boulder. It looks like a whale as big as a house, doubled on top of each other, carved out. Indian ovens still there, we crawl inside the crevice of the cave to play and hide from all the things that so far have scared us. Death in the family already there to prepare us to live, to love, to burn, to learn. Untold hymns we sing to keep out the cold lament. Unspoken sorrows have been there. Now can I know how, what was said round the corner while I pretended to rest on a dusty daybed. Sundays below, biblical concordance at head, and slovenly Peter with dementia praecox growing his nails as long as his socks, and later blue flowers showed her face to me. I hid a note there so no one can see. The indices of biblical time must be of use, at least in rhyme. Van, never met I, but my name rhymes with his. Leanne extended, reversed from the Ms. Annie Lee, another I missed, and Van Lee, a doll my mother had kissed. Her limbs now loosened, she should be fixed, like so many things old and new mixed. Hair looms like the wreath where everyone's names were once known. Some remain on the plane of remembered ancestors, and friends come to visit. When asked for a lock of hair, they did give it, and soldiers who left their cards on a trivet. All that remains is crocheted hair and acrostic. What can remain of the love if we toss it? It's genetically bound in our bones and our skin. I wake up each morning once more to begin investigations into what I was not told growing up. All right, that's it. It's 2:00. Thank you so much for reading. Let's have a little conversation. I can start a little by just saying, yeah, that was heaven, right? I just think it's. I keep thinking it's like poetry's makes us be in the present, and that's the only way we can survive. It's like 2 o'clock forever, but it also has past, present, future all at the same time. But I don't know. It's just this. One of the unifying things I was thinking about is how these poets all do everything, at the same time in different ways. But like, how is this musicality and this politics and this content, and some poems emphasize more than the other, but they're just like so present, just like and the musicality of the language, I think, is one thing that I just need, to hear. And I just thank you so much for beaming into the little portal. And I want to know, I guess one question I have is, where does poetry come from for you? I don't know, like how does a poem beam in? What happens? Do you work with other texts? Like, do you need mediation? That seems to be one thing that happens.
I said too, I'll just jump in with a thought, Leanne. I had a student in a first year class this week kind of say, like, her mind is blown every week. She's an older student, and she's like, this is like drugs. She's like, do people actually sit down and read poems like this, like to themselves? Like, she's like, because each one blows your mind. Like, each one is its own little world. And I was like, yeah, some of us dig that. And she was like, do you? And I was like, read? I was like, yeah. I said, I need, for whatever reason, I'm kind of tuned very finely. Like you talked about musicality, just tuned super finely to words, and love to meet another person who is similarly tuned and hears kind of the music of language in the same way, the fineness of it. And there's just so many different ways to express that, and what can be expressed when you hear things that finely. And I said, I need to, like, sometimes I'll sit with a poem, and yeah, it's a small poem, but it's an hour of time to just dwell in that space. And she was just like, so I think in part for me, it just comes from that sensitivity and really seeking out, at least reading it, trying to express that sensitivity or drown in it. Does
anybody else have a comment about, do you go on your nerve or what? Do you have to have a starter, sourdough starter text, or does it vary? Or like, I'm interested in this of working with other intertextualities. That seems to be one of the things that we do.
Well, I can say that for about the last, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years, I've been with, this group online that's done like a poem a day for April, or you just have to write a poem every day for April. So that's kind of good, because I normally always think in series, but that just forces me to generally just do like singles instead. Except those ones there, I realized from the table of contents of that John Barth's book that there were like 29 chapters. So I got to just use each one for a day of the. But the poem a day April thing is definitely a cool thing to do. You can get a group of people, because it just like forces you to do one every day for pure fun. Right, Bonds?
That's right. I hope everybody here writes a poem a day for April. Come on, y'all.
I mean, my hero is like Carole King with the Brill Building, where she just got like paid to go in and go up to like the whatever floor and like sit down at a desk and like write songs and then punch the clock and go home. Like that would be my ultimate poet life,
Yeah, let's do it. Poet Brill.
Yeah. Yeah. Poetry Brill Building. Yes.
What else? What can we say? I'm sure y'all have some things to bring up. We also could talk about things that we're working on. That's another thing we talked about. What are current projects? What how are you engaging with things right now? I'm interested in like poetry that deals with collage. I think Harryette has been doing these amazing genealogical collages for a long time, and using visuals. Has anybody worked with? We've done a little bit with the musicality, but like, can anybody talk about working with collage physically and then translating that to a poem, or just what that practice means? Is it separate or together with your poetic practice, like Harryette? I just remember like Rosemary Waldrop saying "collage to the rescue." I always think of her saying that she, was tired of writing about her mother, so she did some cut-up poems, and then she said they're still about my mother. So like that kind of try to get outside of our normal frame of mind by using collage. I'm very interested in. Does anybody use that in their practice?
Harriet, you had your hand up there for a second.
Yes, well, I just want to say that I am really enjoying working with collages. I think I just put a link in to a series of collages that just got published recently in Air Light magazine. And so sometimes when words aren't happening, I go to pictures. And yeah, I was doing these things with sort of like a scrapbook of family history using letters. In fact, there's one, and you can't really see it, but this background, in my background, there's that frame is one of my family history collages with a picture of my father in his Army uniform, and letters and postcards and telegrams and things like that. And also I'm using a lot of stuff from the internet because I'm using PowerPoint to make collages.
Very cool.
I mean, I think of the work Sonnet was doing with the Shakespeare sonnet, like, expanding it with the letters. Like, I mean, that's a kind of collage in a way. I mean, like, this kind of materiality of the language, and how does that give us material to work with? I'm just kind of obsessed with that intertextual practice, and how do we refigure things? I mean, or does it just come from dream? Like, how does it all weave together? It's just a mystery to me. Like, somebody says, love the singing of poetry, and I'm wondering, does Sappho sing her poems as they say Homer did? Oh, I'm sure Sappho's lyre is there. I think, Harry, you have that great line about Sappho's lyre. I think we should all get little stringed instruments and pluck them.
I changed it to Sapphire's lyre.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sapphire. What are y'all working on? Upcoming things? In progress? I know I see my husband Tony's on there. We're doing a production of Spider Rabbit by Michael McClure soon at tornpage.org. You can beam in and see our weird play production of Michael McClure's anti-war extreme, was it gargoyle cartoon? I don't know. It's very intense play where Tony is going to be Spider Rabbit. What else is happening? Anybody?
Well, I've been, Leanne, you know that I've been writing songs too, so I know you. I'm just trying to sit back and let other people say stuff about their practice, but I'll say, yeah, I've been after 7 years of writing. Like, it took a long time to do Sonnet Shakespeare because it was such an intensive process, and I found it dense, and I found it very textual, and I was just kind of sitting in text for so long that I feel like all my energy was up here, like 7 years of up here, and I needed to bring things down into my body and also figure out what, it's just been a great journey into what can't be said by text alone. And I think that your reading really staged that for us, performed that for us with the sassafras tree. Like I will remember that poem as you voiced it, like just the lilt and turns of it. Yeah, so I'm working on stuff like that.
And thanks for I never did hear that one that you wrote for me. So thanks for that. I have a friend who's in a brass band here, and he wanted to do a side project that it was supposed to be sort of like weird, like, I don't know, like Martin Denny exotica type music, and I was supposed to write the lyrics for it. But I kept just writing, so I started writing all these songs, probably like 15 or 20, but I can only categorize them as like, I don't know, just like country noir, just like, I know they're completely not what he wants or needs, but now I'm just going down that path and it's just not stopping, even though it's completely not suitable for what he tasked me to do, which I may get back to. I suppose one day I'll figure out what he really wants. Wow. Yeah, so me and my friends have been in a band that Ansem scene, Skinverb, for it's like the longest running band that only plays twice a year. It goes all the way back to, ancient traditional times, we like to say, for before the pandemic. Yeah, Skinverb. Yeah.
Yeah, Sonnet wants to know when can we hear it. Do you have it online or anything?
Um, we never like recorded anything because we're just that lazy. There's like that famous, there's like a YouTube thing from one of the poetry festivals, I think is somewhere to be found that I could find. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is there a way we can unmute the other the audience so they can speak too? I think that I got a text that somebody said they couldn't unmute. It'd be great to like invite anybody else in that wants to say anything.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, I just wanted to say I've been working with ballads for a long time, and I'm just amazed at how that form sutures things together. Even when I do like wild collages and make a ballad, just if you sing it, it sort of makes it all look contained. It's really weird. It's like I'm trying to figure out how to break out of the ballad, like I'm trying to break out of the sonnet. But I'm just interested in that kind of smoothing thing that happens with singing. Like, but it's also like, it's like I really love the change of energy in the room when I'm doing a reading or teaching, and that people just how the energy changes when you start to sing. It just sits up a little taller, and just like you can feel it, they're listening with their whole body in a different way. So I'm just very interested in that. That leads to another question: is I've seen the debates whether is poetry only words, or is that poetics also? Are there poetic things that don't have words? Can that be a poem? Can there be a poem of the body that doesn't have any words? That kind of question. And how of course we want to do everything at once, but also like do we have to have language to have poetry or not? I'm still, the jury's out of that. I really love words. I want poetry to be made of words, but like are words necessary for a poem? That's another thing I've been thinking a lot about. That's a good question. But anything, what you're working on, what your thoughts are. Open field.
Poetry emojis, is that what you're saying?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to answer. I feel like I sort of already said what I'm working on, but I'll say it again because I feel rude for not answering any questions. That's why I'm speaking right now, to not feel rude. So indulge me. But I'm working on a manuscript. I think it might be called Glove Money. I'm not sure. It's a whole mishmash of poems that I think took a couple years to feel strong enough to write. So maybe a little bit like what Sonnet was talking about for Sonnet Shakespeare. I don't know, they're very different from my first book, Natch. Maybe they say more things. It's hard to say things. It takes a lot of commitment. But I think they're very say-y. Thanks for asking.
No, I love the list. I'm into the list form too. I love that list you had of instructions about how to be more gay. I love that. Julie Patton, I see you beaming in. Different between speaking and singing, pretty much a manner of microtonal toe mail. Can you say a little more about that, Julie? Unruly Julie? No. Okay.
It's like just changing the pitch. It's changing the pitch speed too, you know. It's going from a fastball to a curveball to a slider. It just, you know, there's that. I don't know if this counts as a collage, but I mean, it's probably been like, I've been for like 10 years now, I've been writing these verses, and they're just like, I have, you know, probably like 5,000 of them. But the original intent was to actually break the lyric form. But I mean, to be less lyrical by putting in like all these speed bumps, like every time you have to say this versus that, it kind of slows things down. But they're kind of like collages because you're just putting things together as opposed to, you know, going on with the line.
And it comes from that Gertrude Stein quote about you can't put two words next to each other without the meaning, like that.
Right.
And when you sing something, it gives an extra electric charge that joins the things together. So you can, you know, play with that.
Yeah.
But one thing, I remember when I first started singing poetry, I was actually studying at Naropa with Stephen Taylor, and he was doing like a blues poem of mine that I'd written after reading Sterling Brown, and you know, and he just said he showed me how to just like you just emphasize the the musicality of the line and just make it go up and down more, like, you know, and then you make a tune, you know, just sort of, you know, you sort of exaggerate that. Anthem says sculptors make videos to get closer to poetry. Oh yes, there's lots of great the poetic film, and of course Nathaniel Dorsky or people that are making poetic film with, that's another thing with a purely visual language, you know, non-narrative. So I'm just very interested in that. That do we have to have words to make a poem?
The separation of these things has a lot to do with power, and you know, because many societies don't think of these things as being pulled apart in the way the West enunciates them. And
yeah. Yeah, one of my pet peeves is like saying poetry and art, and that's why I love that Brooklyn Rail is like putting poetry in the center. There's so much of a great visual art advocate place, you know, but there's, you know, giving it a platform for poetry, and I just think it's really wonderful not to just be local, but you know, like this kind of idea that you know, we make poetry out of words that we don't have to go to the store to buy art supplies. You know, it's like free for everybody. And
singing can be free too.
Yeah.
Dancing.
I take photographs of words, and there's words all over the place, like it, sewer covers, and then not only is the word, but then there's all this kind of like the grainy texture of the metal and stuff that surrounds the word, and it gets a kind of an interesting thing going on.
Do you put them together, or just have the one word like in the wild caught?
It depends on what's there, but I try not to have, you know, the entire thing, just a portion of it or fraction.
Yeah, I love that sign reading mode, that gathering, that openness. I love that you do that. I want to see that.
Sure. I mean, another thing I wanted to talk about for a second is the war. Yeah. There's a really rich language. I mean, not to condone the war, but there's a lot of really rich language stuff that gets thrown out there as a result of the war in news and stuff. And then appropriating that, and back to your idea of collage, appropriating that makes really interesting poems for me.
Yeah, that poem I read during the beginning of the Iraq War was definitely like that, documenting that moment of a heightened awareness when everything is sort of like, either, just magnified. The language is magnified, and you notice it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And like, and in moments of trauma, or times of trauma, can really make that experience more vivid. And it can be, in joy and in trauma. But like the poet is definitely open, and that in something like a moment like this, when we're just in this kind of stunned place, everything gets really magnified. So yeah, I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Well, if poets were more connected to the social body, then maybe war might be diminished, because the people need to imagine otherwise. And, I don't know, I can't remember. There's some kind of quote that says, that ends sort of like, but yeah, the real question that will be asked is, where were the poets? And so I don't remember. It's at the end of someone's email, I think, that I received. Because if, just like you were mentioning, the language that's manifesting as this crap accumulates, and also it's out there, and it's out there because it's in us. And we're not separate from any of this dysfunction. As obviously, it's a pool of language.
Like poet is filter, but we have to like decide what our filters are, and like help that come through. And I really think that the place of the imagination, is more important than ever, that people need that to survive. And I think that is the thing that poetry does, is like reminds people how to play in the midst even of these horrors. Need that to be alive, and like Sophia said, we need to, or Sonnet said too, about like we need to like hear each other and like be in community and play and like be remember these other ways to imagine other realities and make it in the everyday.
I mean, to be with the poor, the people on the very bottom, because most people are addressing matters of choice, but what doesn't occur to a lot of us is that, other people's time or lack of choice, lack of freedom, that to do this and even to recognize and play in this field means to recognize the kind of freedom as an instrument and a practice that one claims. But, anyway.
I think maybe that's a good place to finish the shape. What do you say?
Yes, freedom is a good word to end on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leanne and Harryette and Sonnet and Brett and Sophia. Thank you all for being. Thanks, Julie, for revealing yourself there at the end and giving us some things. Nice to see you.
Nice.
Thank you all.
Now the thing happens where everybody gets unmuted to say hello and goodbye.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you, Leanne.
everybody.
Thank you, Harryette.
Leanne, Sophia.
Thanks, Sophia.
So good.
Right.
See everybody.
Thanks, Sarah. So wonderful to finally hear these voices put to the names.
Sophia, I just wanted to tell you, you do well in New Orleans because everybody says Dahlin all the time.
I must come immediately.
They pronounced like Dahlin.
Alan.
Not
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Invite me to read.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leanne.
Bye.
And thank you, Anselm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia.
Carol.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, you guys.
Thanks for joining, Jolie.
Phyllis.
Ciao. Congratulations.
Bye, Harriet.
Long live
Thank you, Harriet.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. That was fun.
Thank you for
Enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
I also saw you read Muse and Drudge in 1995, and it also blew me away.
Oh,
In
wow.
Philadelphia with Bob Perlman.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Wow.
It was fantastic.
Good memory you have.
I just moved to Philly, and it was like, here we go.
Oh, this was really helped me for my day, my week, my year. Thank
They're
you.
the most noon Wednesdays for sure.
Much love, you guys.
Love y'all.
So thanks
you.
so
All
much,
right.
Leanna, for this. I really appreciate it. Great to meet everyone. And I'm off.
Likewise.
Okay,
Leanne, I just want to say, at some point, I got to figure out our North Carolina coordinates.
All right. You're a bud.
Well, the place that I go, whatever. I think it's all the way in farther west than you, but we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Marshall, North Carolina,
Yeah.
on the
Okay.
French Broad River.
I'm gonna look it up.
All right.
Let's go to have fun.
Bye, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Stay safe.
Take care.
Yeah,
Take care.
Bye.
Bye,
everybody.
everyone. Ciao.
Thank you so.